You walk into a room. Instantly, a silent radar turns on in your mind. You wonder what they think of you. You analyze your posture. You second-guess the words you are about to speak. You feel a subtle, heavy weight in your chest. Why do you do this? Why do you hand over your personal power to strangers? This is the invisible prison of insecurity, and almost every man is trapped inside it. But you are not here to be like every other man. You are here to break the bars. Today, we are dismantling the illusion of self-doubt. I am going to give you 9 absolute keys to unlock a level of emotional control most people will never understand. This is not about puffing up your chest or faking some toxic arrogance. This is about building an internal fortress so cold, so calculated, and so impenetrable that no outside opinion can ever touch you. Tell me in the comments right now. What is the one specific situation that always triggers your insecurity? Write it down. Acknowledge it. Because by the end of this video, it will no longer control you. Let us look at the modern landscape. Men today are fundamentally lost in a sea of noise. You are bombarded with images of curated perfection. You are told to be vulnerable, yet immediately punished by society when you show real weakness. You are told to be confident, but you are given no actual blueprint on how to build that confidence from the ground up. Society profits off your insecurity. A man who doubts himself is a man who buys things he does not need to impress people he does not even like. He is easy to manipulate. He is predictable. For decades, the mainstream advice has been to just fake it until you make it. Stand tall, force a smile, pretend you are not terrified inside. But faking it is just another form of anxiety. It requires constant, exhausting energy to maintain the mask. The moment you are truly tested, that mask shatters into 1,000 pieces. What you actually need is a complete upgrade of your mental operating system. You need a philosophy of mental toughness that has survived for thousands of years, specifically weaponized for the chaos of today. You need the deep, unwavering stillness that comes from genuine self-mastery. You do not need to learn how to act strong. You need to learn how to systematically remove the very things that make you weak. And that transformation begins right now. The first key is the law of absolute separation. Insecurity thrives in blurred lines. You become anxious when you cannot distinguish between what belongs to you and what belongs to the world. Imagine trying to control the weather. You would be constantly stressed, constantly failing, and constantly exhausted. This is exactly what you do when you try to control how other people perceive you. You are trying to control the weather of someone else's mind. The strong man draws a hard, impenetrable line in the sand. On one side is his own mind, his choices, his reactions, his discipline. On the other side is literally everything else. The moment you step outside your own mind, the moment you invest your emotional energy into how a colleague looks at you or how a woman responds to your message, you have surrendered your throne. You have handed the keys of your emotional state to a stranger. This is the root of all weakness. To stop being insecure, you must violently withdraw your attention from the external world. You must retreat into the citadel of your own mind. If you do not control it, it does not exist to you. This is the first profound shift. You stop playing a game you cannot win, and you start mastering the only game that actually matters. When you truly internalize this separation, something incredible happens. The heavy cloak of insecurity simply falls off your shoulders. You realize that someone else's opinion is just a random firing of neurons in a brain you do not own. Why should that dictate your heart rate? Why should that make you sweat? It is entirely illogical. The top 1% of men understand that human beings are fickle. People are distracted, emotional, and often deeply irrational. Basing your self-worth on their shifting moods is like building a massive house on quicksand. The Stoic approach is cold, calm, and highly analytical. You observe their reaction, you extract any useful data, and you immediately discard the emotional weight. If they criticize you, and the criticism is valid factually, you use it to improve. If the criticism is invalid, you ignore it completely. In neither scenario do you allow their words to penetrate your emotional core. You are a vault. Your internal value is decided by one person, and one person only. You. Once you establish this boundary, the world loses its power to intimidate you. You walk through life with a quiet confidence, knowing that absolutely no one can reach into your mind and make you feel inferior without your explicit permission. The second key is mastering the objective lens. Insecurity is never caused by reality. It is caused by the story you tell yourself about reality. You send a text. You get no reply for 3 hours. The objective reality is simply that. Zero communication has occurred. But your insecure mind starts writing a tragedy. You tell yourself you are being ignored. You tell yourself you said something wrong. You tell yourself you are not respected. You take a neutral event and you paint it with the dark colors of your own trauma and doubt. This is a massive drain on your masculine energy. A man of true power refuses to tell himself stories. He strips the emotion away from the facts. He looks at the world through a clear, unsmudged lens. When you feel insecurity rising, you must forcefully stop the narrative in your head. Ask yourself, what are the raw, undeniable facts of this situation? What can be proven in a court of law? Everything else is just a ghost created by your own fear. By refusing to add dramatic interpretations to neutral events, you starve your insecurity of the oxygen it needs to burn. You remain grounded in truth, while weaker men lose their minds over phantoms. This objective lens must be applied to your own flaws as well. Insecure men run from their weaknesses. They try to hide them, mask them, or overcompensate for them. This creates a constant, draining paranoia that they will be found out. The Stoic man takes a radically different approach. He places his flaws on a table under a bright, sterile light, and he examines them without an ounce of self-pity. You are not tall. That is a fact. You are currently out of shape. That is a fact. You lack experience in a certain field. That is a fact. Once you strip the shame away from these realities, they lose their power to hurt you. They simply become data points on your map of self-improvement. You cannot be insecure about something you have already fully accepted and owned. If someone points out a flaw, you simply agree with them. Yes, I am working on that. The moment you agree with your critics, you disarm them completely. They have no weapons left. You have taken the very thing that used to make you sweat and turned it into armor. This is the hallmark of elite mental toughness. You do not hide in the shadows. You stand fully in the light, completely unbothered by what the light reveals. The third key is embracing the fire of judgment. You must understand why you care so much about what others think. It is not your fault. It is a biological glitch. For thousands of years, human beings lived in small tribes. If the tribe did not like you, If you were judged and cast out, you wandered into the wilderness and you died. Your brain is wired to view social rejection as literal death. When you walk into a modern room and feel that spike of social anxiety, it is your ancient brain warning you that you might die if these people do not approve of you. But you are not in the ancient wilderness. You are in the modern world. If someone at a networking event thinks you are awkward, you do not die. You go home, you eat your dinner, and your life continues exactly as it did before. The strong man uses logic to override his biological programming. He recognizes the fear of judgment for what it is, an outdated survival mechanism that is no longer relevant. You must remind yourself daily that the stakes of social interaction are incredibly low. Let them judge. Let them whisper. Their judgments have zero physical impact on your reality. They are just passing sound waves in the air. To truly master this third key, you must actively expose yourself to minor judgments. You must build calluses on your mind, just as you build calluses on your hands in the gym. If you hide from judgment, your fear of it will only grow. The Stoic deliberately steps into discomfort. Speak up in the meeting when you are not perfectly sure of the answer. Wear something slightly out of your comfort zone. Hold eye contact just a second longer than feels natural. When you do these things, you will feel the heat of potential judgment, but more importantly, you will survive it. You will realize that the fire does not burn you. Over time, your nervous system adapts. You learn that disapproval is completely harmless. While 99% of men are shrinking themselves to fit into the safe, invisible middle, you are expanding your territory. You become immune to the crowd's noise. You realize that the people judging you are usually terrified themselves. They are projecting their own insecurities onto you. Why would you ever fear the judgment of a man who is secretly afraid of his own shadow? You step out of the herd, totally indifferent to the bleating of the sheep behind you. The fourth key is the absolute assassination of comparison. We live in an era designed to make you feel inferior. Every time you look at a screen, you are bombarded with the highlights of a billionaire, the physique of an elite athlete, and the lifestyle of a celebrity. If you measure your behind-the-scenes reality against their highly filtered highlight reel, you will always lose. Comparison is the fastest way to manufacture insecurity out of thin air. It takes whatever pride you have in your own progress and instantly turns it into ash. A man operating on a higher intellectual plane understands that comparison is fundamentally irrational. You do not have their genetics. You do not have their upbringing. You do not have their hidden failures, their private miseries, or their invisible advantages. Comparing yourself to another man is like trying to measure the volume of water with a ruler. It makes zero sense. The Stoic ruthlessly cuts the cord of external comparison. He unfollows the accounts that trigger inadequacy. He stops looking sideways at what his peers are doing. He recognizes that every second spent analyzing another man's path is a second stolen from walking his own. There is only one valid metric of success for a man of true substance. It is not the man next to you. It is the man you were yesterday. This is the only comparison that contains actual truth. Are you stronger than you were last year? Is your mind sharper? Is your emotional control more refined? If the answer is yes, then you are winning, regardless of what the rest of the world is doing. You must build an internal scoreboard. The insecure man uses an external scoreboard. He constantly looks up at the audience to see if they are clapping. If they do not clap, he feels like a failure. The powerful man never looks at the audience. He only looks at the internal scoreboard. He sets his own standards, which are usually far higher than anything society would demand of him. When he meets his own standards, he feels quiet satisfaction. When he falls short, he feels the drive to correct it. The audience is completely irrelevant. When you shift your entire value system to an internal scoreboard, insecurity evaporates. You become entirely self-sustaining. You become a judge of your own character, and the opinions of passing strangers lose all their currency. The fifth key is the weaponization of silence. Insecure men talk too much. They over-explain. They justify every action. They fill empty space with words because silence makes them terrified. They believe that if they just say enough, if they just explain themselves perfectly, they will finally win the approval they desperately crave. This is a massive leak of masculine power. Every time you over-explain, you are subtly telling the other person that they have authority over you. You are submitting to their judgment. The elite man understands that silence is one of the most intimidating and powerful tools at his disposal. He says exactly what needs to be said, and not a single word more. He does not justify his boundaries, he simply enforces them. When someone challenges him unprovoked, he does not scramble to defend himself. He simply looks at them, holds eye contact, and lets the silence stretch. This completely flips the power dynamic. Silence forces the other person to confront their own words. It makes them uncomfortable. It shows absolute, unshakable confidence in your own position. Practicing this restraint requires immense self-discipline. The next time you are misunderstood, resist the burning urge to launch into a 5-minute defense. State your truth simply and let it hang in the air. If someone pauses in conversation, do not rush to fill the void with nervous chatter. Sit back, breathe. Let the silence exist. You will feel a profound shift in your internal state. You will realize that you do not need to perform for anyone. You do not need to constantly manage how people perceive your actions. By holding your tongue, you are signaling to your own brain that you are safe, that you are confident, and that you do not require external validation to exist. This quietness becomes a magnetic force. People are drawn to men who do not eagerly seek their approval. They respect the man who is comfortable in the void. While the insecure man talks himself into a corner, the stoic man listens, observes, and retains all his power. He becomes a mystery, a solid rock in a river of nervous babble. This quiet dominance is the ultimate cure for the anxious need to be heard. The sixth key is the absolute mastery of desire. Insecurity is fundamentally a state of wanting. You want someone to like you. You want a promotion. You want a specific outcome to happen in the future. Whenever you desire something outside of your direct control, you automatically place yourself in a position of weakness. You give the entity that holds what you want the power to make you feel miserable. If you desperately want a woman's validation, she controls you. If you desperately want society's status, society controls you. The Stoic philosopher understands that to become untouchable, you must radically decrease your attachments. This does not mean you stop pursuing greatness. It means you stop needing the reward to feel whole. You detach your ego from the outcome. You do the work, you put in the hours, you speak your truth, but you remain entirely indifferent to the applause. You must cultivate a mindset of absolute sufficiency. You must realize that right now, in this very moment, lacking nothing, you are entirely complete. Everything else is just a bonus. When you want less, you immediately become more powerful. The man who needs nothing is the most dangerous man in any room. He cannot be bribed. He cannot be threatened. He cannot be manipulated by the withdrawal of affection or status. Imagine negotiating from a position where you genuinely do not care if you walk away. That is the ultimate leverage. You must apply this to your daily social interactions. Stop walking into interactions looking to extract validation. Walk in full. Walk in to observe, to offer value, or simply to exist. When you strip away the desperate need for a specific outcome, the anxiety vanishes. You are no longer performing a routine hoping for a treat. You are simply moving through the world on your own terms. If they like you, fine. If they hate you, fine. Your internal temperature remains exactly the same. This level of emotional independence is incredibly rare. It is the signature of a man who has conquered his own psychology. He is no longer a slave to his desires. He is the master of his own fulfillment. The seventh key is the practice of negative visualization. Insecurity is largely driven by a fear of the unknown worst-case scenario. What if I fail? What if I am humiliated? What if I lose everything? Your mind keeps these fears vague and blurry, turning them into massive, terrifying monsters lurking in the shadows of your subconscious. The Stoic does not run from these shadows. He walks directly into them with a flashlight. He actively visualizes the worst possible outcome. If you are terrified of public speaking, sit down and imagine the exact scenario. Imagine yourself freezing. Imagine the audience laughing. Imagine the embarrassment. Go all the way to the bottom of the fear. And then, once you are there, ask yourself a very logical question. Would I survive this? The answer is always yes. You would walk off the stage. You would go to sleep. The sun would rise the next day. The world would not end. By forcing yourself to clearly define the worst-case scenario, you realize it is entirely survivable. You take away the monster's power. This premeditation of adversity is a mental armor against all anxiety. When you have already lived through the worst possible outcome in your mind and made peace with it, the actual event loses all its tension. You step into the arena knowing that even if everything goes catastrophically wrong, you will remain unbroken. This allows you to perform with a relaxed, lethal efficiency. You are no longer desperately trying to prevent a disaster. You are simply executing your plan. The insecure man is always tiptoeing along the edge of a cliff, terrified of the drop. The strong man has already looked down into the abyss, calculated the fall, and realized he has a parachute. He operates with a fearless grace. Whenever you feel that familiar grip of insecurity tightening around your throat before a big moment, pause. Walk yourself through the total failure. Look it in the eye. Accept it as a possibility. And then watch as the fear dissolves into thin air, leaving behind nothing but cold, sharp focus. The eighth key is the architecture of a dominant purpose. Insecurity is an infection that breeds in the empty spaces of your mind. If you do not have a massive, consuming purpose in your life, your mind will naturally fixate on trivial nonsense. It will obsess over how your hair looks, or what a random person thought of your joke, or why someone did not text you back. Your brain needs a problem to solve, and if you do not give it a grand mission, it will invent tiny, pathetic problems to stress over. The elite man immunizes himself against insecurity by building a purpose that is exponentially larger than his own ego. When you are genuinely obsessed with building a business, mastering a skill, or forging your physical body into steel, the petty social anxieties of daily life simply vanish. You literally do not have the mental bandwidth to care if someone thinks you are uncool. You are too busy building an empire. Purpose acts as a massive anchor in the storm of life. This shift in focus is life-changing. You must stop looking inward at your own flaws and start looking outward at your mission. The insecure man is constantly staring in the mirror, dissecting every imperfection. The powerful man is staring through the windshield, locked onto his destination. When your mission is clear, every action is weighed against it. Does caring about this person's opinion help me achieve my goal? No. Then it is discarded immediately. Your purpose becomes a filter that automatically deletes insecurity. You realize that your ego is just a fragile construct, but your work, your legacy, your discipline, those things are real. Dedicate yourself to the work. Let the work consume you. When a man is entirely devoted to his craft, he walks with a different gravity. He is not trying to prove himself to anyone, because the work speaks for itself. He is grounded in reality, not perception. Find that heavy, demanding purpose. Let it crush the trivial anxieties out of your system completely. The ninth key is the ultimate alchemical shift. It is the concept of amor fati, the love of your fate. This is not just acceptance. This is aggressively embracing every single obstacle, rejection, and moment of disrespect as a necessary fuel for your evolution. The insecure man shrinks when he is tested. He views rejection as a tragedy. He asks, "Why is this happening to me?" The Stoic man smiles when he is tested. He views rejection as a training simulator. He asks, "What is this teaching me?" When someone disrespects you, they are doing you a massive favor. They are revealing their character and they are giving you a free opportunity to practice your emotional control. When you fail publicly, you are given the rare gift of destroying your ego and rebuilding it stronger. You must rewire your brain to crave the resistance. You do not just tolerate the hard things, you love them. You recognize that without the resistance, there is no growth. You cannot forge a sword without the brutal heat of the fire and the crushing blows of the hammer. Apply this directly to your feelings of insecurity. The next time you feel that hot flush of embarrassment or self-doubt, do not fight it. Do not try to push it away. Lean into it. Say to yourself, "Good. This is the exact emotion I need to conquer right now. This is my mind going to the gym." By welcoming the discomfort, you instantly strip it of its power. Anxiety only controls you when you are terrified of feeling it. The moment you invite it in, the moment you decide to use it as fuel, it loses its grip. You become a psychological juggernaut. Every attempt to break you only makes you harder. Every attempt to embarrass you only deepens your stoic resolve. You look at the chaotic, unpredictable, often cruel world and you say, "Bring it all. I will consume it all, and I will convert it all into absolute power." This is the final stage of the strong man's journey. He does not just survive his insecurities, he devours them. Let us bring these principles together into a singular, undeniable reality. Insecurity is not a permanent personality trait. It is not something you are born with. It is a bad habit of the mind. It is a series of incorrect assumptions, unchecked emotions, and a lack of deliberate focus. By applying these 9 keys, you are systematically dismantling the architecture of weakness in your brain. You are separating what is yours from what is theirs. You are looking at facts instead of fiction. You are embracing the fire of judgment and destroying the urge to compare. You are mastering the silence, killing your desperate desires, and facing the worst-case scenarios with a cold smirk. You are anchoring yourself to a massive purpose and learning to love the very resistance that used to break you. This is not a quick fix. This is a lifelong discipline. But the moment you start practicing it, the chains begin to loosen. You are stepping into a very exclusive circle of men. While the masses are drowning in a digital sea of anxiety, seeking likes, seeking approval, and terrified of their own shadows, you are building something permanent. You are building a mind of stone. It will take time. There will be days when the old habits try to claw their way back in, but you will not let them. You have the blueprint now. You know exactly what happens behind the curtain of human psychology. You are no longer the victim of your own thoughts. You are the architect. Stand tall not because you are pretending, but because your foundation goes impossibly deep. Let the world spin in its chaotic emotional frenzy. You will remain exactly where you are. Unbothered, unshaken, unstoppable. The era of your insecurity is officially over. The era of your absolute mental dominance has just begun. You have just armed yourself with the 9 Stoic keys to absolute mental dominance. You now understand that insecurity is an illusion, a ghost created by a lack of discipline and a misdirection of focus. You are no longer a victim of your own mind. You are the master of your internal fortress. The heavy burden of caring what ordinary people think has been lifted. But hearing this is only step 1. True power is in the execution. Take one of these keys today and apply it ruthlessly. Embrace the silence. Cut out the comparison. Face the fire of judgment with a cold, unshakable calm. I want to thank you for watching this to the end. It proves you have the attention span and the drive that 99% of men lack. If this shifted your perspective, subscribe to the channel. We are building a community of men who refuse to be weak. I will leave you with this question. Which of the 9 keys are you going to implement into your life today? Drop your answer in the comments below. Stay strong. Stay stoic. See you in the next one.